Welcome back to Fast Monty's Garage. Today we get to talk about more cooling tricks, as you can tell. Now, this is applicable to any muscle car. It doesn't have to be a Pontiac. But if you're a Pontiac person and it's your first time here, you need to check out the video I did on a cooling trick to keep our heads stabilized. What I mean by that is keeping the temperatures the same front to rear. I was successfully able to do that, and you can implement that trick. Now, all that does is keep that temperature the same front and rear. What we're doing today is trying to make the whole system more efficient. So if you're a Pontiac guy, go check it out. Now, the reason we're here, and the reason any of the rest of you are here, is you want to see how electric fans get mounted, etc. So here's the deal. I was at a autocross event, another link right there if you want to check it out. It was interesting, my first time in the GTO, but someone pointed out to me that my current shroud is not adequate enough. It is not giving me 100% efficiency to work with my system. So they have a good point, and I'll show you why in a second. I was on a hunt for a better shroud, and that's how I came across Cold Case. Twin 14-inch fans with a perfect shroud around it. So that's what we're installing today. But because of my engineering background, I always try and prove that it works, so you guys can follow along and see the same thing. Now, how are we going to prove it, and what's most important here? Well, those of us that have big block cars, so this is now a 470, by the way. It used to be a 400. Chevys have, the guys that have big engines know that cooling is #1 top priority, especially when we're on the freeway and everything's fine until we get to traffic. And now it's stop and go, mostly stop, and now we're freaking out. Heart rate goes up. You start watching your temperature gauges because you do not want to overheat. No one wants to overheat. I've been there, done that. That's why I'm so adamant about trying to keep the car cool. Now, how do we test that? So in my mind, I'm thinking we idle the car and I wait for the current fans to turn on, measure the time it takes for them to turn off. So say they turn at 205, turn off at 185. Let's call it that. Doesn't matter what the temperature is because I'm not changing that, because my plan is to do a benchmark with the current setup. It's a BeCool radiator with twin 12-inch fans. I'm going to take the 12s off and put the 14s on that radiator. Do another test. And by God, that number better be better, right? Or I'm going to be pretty upset. The third test is going to be the Cold Case radiator with the twin 14-inch fans. So that's the moral of the story today. Obviously, we're going to go through installation, what you need to look out for if you're changing out from a stock radiator. I'll even point out some other things you might need to know if you have a mechanical fan still. God bless your heart. But having said that, I also got you guys a discount code to use at Cold Case. It's Fast Monty, and I'll put a link below with the discount code. You get free shipping on anything you buy. And while you're here, consider subscribing, because there's going to be more topics like this to come if you're brand new. And consider getting a hat if I've ever helped you out. I'll leave a link below. Join the FMG team. So having said that, let's get over here and I want to show you the current shroud and how it's not optimized. All right, here's that shroud issue I was telling you about. So see this gap here? It's a very similar gap on the other side. We are not using this part of the radiator when we are stopped in traffic. So if the fans are on, they're pulling air from this side, this middle portion of the radiator, and not utilizing the surface. That's like 25% of the surface area. That's not good. So that's why I found that full shroud. I already measured. It should come right to here, so I can take these off, put the big shroud on, and test it again. And we'll go from there. Now, the cool thing is the wire harness, I'll show that in more detail when I pull this out, is actually, I think, is going to work just fine with not me changing anything. But Cold Case has their own harness system you can get, which comes with the temperature sending unit that you put in your manifold, and with a relay and everything. And I'll leave links below for that as well. Now, something else to point out is your mechanical fan system has this plastic shroud around it, right? That has to be removed. We might have to modify the core support to accept the new radiator. So the other thing that you need to know is up front here. For your system to work properly, and be most efficient, you need this area covered that's between the core support and the bumper. I've been to so many car shows that people ask me where I got this because they don't have one in their car, which is astonishing to me. So when people rebuild their cars, they throw this away, don't think about putting it back. But this forces air to come in through the grill and through the radiator. If this isn't here, the air will come in through the grill, bypass the radiator, and come in up and over. Now some cars have a hood their hood comes down and covers that. That's very rare though, so make sure that gap is covered in your car so you're forcing air into the radiator. Now, having said that, let's get those fans out. Got the fans out, and they're Spall fans, which I didn't even know. The neat thing about the BeCool, they have these flaps, so when you're at cruising speed, air can go through the radiator. They're on the bottom too. Not sure if that's a big deal or not. Like I said before, I don't care about cruising speed. I care about being in traffic. So there's the big difference. You guys see that? That is pretty epic. So the other good news is I think the connectors are the same. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the new ones back on the BeCool radiator and cross your fingers that it works without modification. So I was wrong. The connectors did not fit, so I cut off the old connectors from the Spall fans, spliced them in, and I used my favorite splice tool. This is a solder splice. I'll leave links below. I get them on Amazon, but I love these things. You heat them up with a heat gun, and that solder connects the wires and shrink wraps it. And then there's a shrink wrap sleeve you can put right over it. So I already did this one. So I'm about to seal them up. Just wanted to show you that. All right, I got it to fit. It's pretty awesome. It's perfectly lined up on this side of the BeCool radiator, but it's a 1/2 inch too long on that side, which means the cold case radiator, the core size, or the area that has the cooling elements in it, or the fins, is a 1/2 inch wider. So that's good. I used some duct tape, so don't worry about that. I had to seal the sides, especially on the far side. But we are good to go with test number 2. I did get a baseline measurement. It was over 1.5 minutes. Not to worry, I did write it down somewhere. All right, team, so I'm waiting for the engine to warm up. As you can tell, here's my FiTech handheld that shows the coolant temperature, and the fans say 0 because, well, clearly it's not hot enough yet. So my plan is when that turns to 1, I'll start the timer, and when it turns back to 0, I'll stop the timer. But while we're here and we're warming things up, if you have an AC car and you want to put electric fans on, I highly recommend you get another relay. I think Ron Francis makes it. I will look it up and leave a link below. So what happens is when you turn your AC on, it actually activates the fans. So that's a fail-safe, so you don't overheat too quickly, and you can pull more air through the condenser because that's in front of the radiator. So I recommend that when the time comes. So I already tested it. The fans work, so that's good. Now I'm just gonna sit and wait. I'll keep you posted. All right, team, we're getting close. I think 2:03 or 2:05, the fan should turn on, and I'll hit the start button on my timer. So I'm just looking for that 1 to show up. There it is. So I heard the fans kick in. I also have a mechanical temperature gauge right there. So we'll see how it goes. Waiting for the 0. There it is. Heyo, 115. Nice. So here's the chart I started. So run 1, BeCool radiator, 12-inch fans, ambient was around 78. That time was 1 minute 35.2 seconds. Run number 2 we just did. The BeCool radiator with the cold case 14-inch dual fans, ambient's a little higher, 80 degrees, and we're at 115.70. Nice. See, kids, stay in school. Science actually works. Oops. Now, next thing here, I have to drain the coolant, pull the radiator, double check that everything's compatible for hoses, but we can go ahead and start with mounting the fans to the cold case radiator. Let's get to that. All right, those of you who get the dual fan setup from Cold Case, It comes with the shroud with threaded inserts in the shroud already. And then there's these cool little, I'll call them a doohickey, the foot that actually slides right in the slot. And then you can use the fastener that comes with the kit and attach them. Now the note here is, see how there's a flat edge on the fan, there's a round edge. You want the two flat edges facing each other and have the wiring come towards the middle. I actually changed the location of this one just to make it more in line so I can get my wire harness straightened out, but that's why you want flat to flat, and we're good to go. Now mounting this to the radiator does require some work because there are no pre-drilled holes in the radiator. This bottom beam is a rectangular beam, no coolant goes in there, so you can drill through that bottom piece, and that's exactly what we have to do. So pick a spot. You want to make sure you're equal on both sides for gap. There's about maybe 3/16 of an inch on each side, and also pull it forward. This is the bottom of the radiator because the fill cap is up there. You want to pull it forward because if you look at the top, it looks like this. So this edge is flush with the top. You want it to be nice and clean when you install it. So I'm going to pull it all the way down. I'm going to get my center mark. I'm going to make some center marks. There's some 1/8 inch, looks like 1/8 inch holes already here. I didn't get fasteners with my kit, so maybe you guys did. I don't know if they're supposed to come with it or not, but I have plenty of fasteners around. So I'm going to mark these holes, drill them out, put these fasteners in, then mark the top holes. And the top holes, I think I might do something different. So a little update for you guys. This is why I like using a center punch. So this is the center punch I used. It makes a little dimple. It also acts as a starter hole, but that is way too close to the edge, this bottom edge. And I found these self-tapping fasteners. And I highly recommend you get a hex head for the bottom ones, because if you need to remove and repair the fans and the fan shroud, getting a screwdriver in here is not going to be optimal. So make sure you get a hex head. So I'm going to make some new holes, center punch some new holes higher, and get to work. So my new holes are slightly bigger than the screws, so you have some room to move the shroud back and forth with the screws when they're in the hole. That was easy. Let's talk about this top side real quick. Those of you that follow the channel know I like making my stuff unique. And I have these leftover fasteners, socket head cap screws that are black gloss powder coat. How bitchin' is that? And they're machine thread. So I'm gonna go ahead and enlarge these holes, center punch them, and tap a hole so we can put these things in. And these are metric, these are 6x1, so I have all the equipment for it. Here we go. Ooh, yeah, we're in. I'm gonna deburr the top edge. Let's get to tapping. All right, see how it worked. Oh yeah, just pulling on it to test a little bit. And I know I can't tighten it too much, but that should work. Let's see how we did. Oh yeah, that looks sweet. Love it. So I got the radiator drained, and some of you may have noticed I have an AN hose. I have an AN hose size 20 on the top and the bottom. Now the cool thing here, this is an auto plumb fitting, and I'll show you guys how this works. I can take this off, just unscrews, and I can put it on the new radiator. That's awesome because this is the same diameter. The problem is the lower one. I also have one on the lower, and let me show you on the new radiator. So here's the issue. Those auto plumb fittings are actually reusable, which is so awesome. The problem I'm having now is that this fitting, this diameter, is smaller than the BeCool radiator. The BeCool is like 1.75 inches. This is over 1.5 inches. The top fitting is 1.5 inches, which is an identical match to the BeCool radiator. This one is like a 1/16 over, which is weird. Maybe an eighth, almost an eighth over, but it's a tweener size where auto plumb doesn't have the fitting for that. So that kind of threw me for a loop. So the solution is I gotta get to welding. Dang, this doesn't apply to most of you. Maybe 1% of us have bottom AN hoses, but wow, the stuff I get myself into. All right, it's TIGging time. So I was actually able to press this in. So there's actually like a lap joint right here. And I tried to pull this out, it won't come out, which is, it probably won't leak without welding. So it doesn't matter. I'm gonna put a little bead around there and you know, cross everything you have two of. Be right back. All right, it's on there. Whew, it's hot today. So I'll let that cool down, pull the other radiator. I'll show you guys the differences between the two radiators, kind of a big deal when it comes to science. Be right back. All right, I got the beast out. Now, I know we're running out of time, so we're gonna cut the video here, but I want you to keep a couple things in mind. We proved today, we proved that size does matter. Sorry guys, but it's true. Those twin 14s that we put on the existing radiator helped tremendously. And that proves to you guys, you can actually just buy the twin 14s from Cold Case and put on your existing radiator if you want to try that experiment. You might need to modify the shroud a bit, but be sure to use my discount code below. It's FastMonty, get you free shipping. But next episode, we're going to continue the math and science because there is a size discrepancy between these two radiators. It's minor, but it could make a big difference, especially when we're talking about the way the tube sizes are inside each radiator. So next episode, we're going to do that math, as well as go through some tips and tricks on getting to fit better, because they're not exactly quite the same size, and I want to make some more cosmetic adjustments and might give you guys some ideas. So if you're brand new to the channel, subscribe if you haven't, because the next video is going to be exactly that. Those of you that maybe stumbled across this video later in my life, just go right there. There's part 2. So enjoy, kick back, relax, check that out. Until next time, build them fast, drive them faster. See ya.